And welcome back into the Cowboys Report. I am Tom Downey, producer Chris Daughtry, behind the scenes for today's live show as we will go through all of the latest on the Cowboys with 1 month until the NFL draft. As we sit right now, how do you grade this Dallas Cowboys roster? Knowing there will be more reinforcements coming via the draft and I guess undrafted free agency as well. Grade the Cowboys roster. A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know in the comments section of today's show and in the pinned poll. 6% voting A, 35% voting B, 52% voting C, 7% voting D/F. So I think I got the right ones in there in terms of the grades. So I'm sure there's very few actual F votes. It's kind of what I was going for there. Not surprised it's mostly B's and C's. That feels about right, and you might even be able to get it bumped up to a B after the NFL draft, but I want to see who they take before I start presuming that stuff. I see C, B minus, C plus, C. That's from Jalen Dogpound, Kenkin, Matthew, and Jermaine Hudson. Zachary's got them as a solid B. Keep the votes coming as we go to Nick's Super Chat. Thank you, Nick. That's a $5 one there. Do you think if the boys pick a running back, or they take Scadaboo if he were available later? This guy impresses me. I think in this scenario, it's like if they take someone in round 2, right, and Scadaboo's there in the 5th. I don't think he's going to be there in the 5th. I know he's not going to be for everyone because I think that the overall long speed is a question mark, and he is almost too reliant on tackle breaking sometimes. But I see 3-down back ability. I have a third-round grade on him thereabouts, kind of a later third-round grade, but third-round grade nonetheless. So, yeah, if he's there at the 5th, I'm in. I wouldn't be surprised, even if it's not Scadaboo, if it's somebody else, if this team does choose to double dip it in the backfield. With all those 5th and 6th and 7th rounders, there could very well be a value that you go, let's just do it. This is the best guy on our board. That scenario could very well be in play. From Chris Broussard's burner accounts, Chet Holmgren, Tom Downey from Chat Sports, cherry flavored chapstick, Lakers in 5. Is that a line or a rap line or something? Because he always does rap artists. So I don't know. But I appreciate that, Chris, I think. Congrats on the new kid. Thank you very much, Chris. Not there yet. And what's your favorite Lil Baby song? Do you have me here, Chris? I have to bring Stone back in again. Chris says freestyle is his go-to, I guess. I don't know. I got nothing for you again. This is not my music. As I've said before, and I'll say it again, as something to prove. Stone off the cuffs is something to prove. Okay. Yeah, I mean, as a, almost now mid-30s-year-old white man, I like Blink-182. So, because that is not a surprise to anybody, I feel like. All right, this is the Super Chat menu on today's show. We'll come back to the Micah stuff here. $20 for the shot or Bean Boozled. I guess we did have others from your watch party, Chris. So there we go, fresh batch. So either one works. $50 for the beer bong. The most 50s in the month of March gets a signed Zach Martin jersey. The leader right now remains Anthony McMillan at 8. The first 50 of the day, by the way, does count as double the entries. I'm only going to do one beer bong, but instead of the tally adding 1, we'll add 2 on that one. So the first 50 of the day will count double. So Danny at 6 and Jeremy and Calvin at 5, all still very much in the mix there. The Micah decision pool is this. You can pick the date that Micah signs or untraded. If you get it right or are the closest to getting it right, you'll get these 50-50 split the pot. Already got a couple entries in there right now. You can go to chatsports.com/Micah to see them. And then Venmo me your date at WhatGoingDowney, $5 to enter. I suppose if he never gets paid, period, then we'll give it everyone back. But I think it's a matter of when, not if. But the signs or traded, I think, is the fair date, is the fair terminology there. So at WhatGoingDowney, $5 with your date prediction. Chatsports.com/Micah if you want to go see the entries that are in there so far. From K-Dog, hey Tom, where do you rank the Cowboys roster as of right now? Overall, team-wise, I think we're kind of in the average stage. They should add some talent in the draft. They have an earlier pick. That's beneficial. I think there's a big question mark around the coaching, and all of those things are kind of interconnected. I feel like the top end talent is pretty good. The depth is better. The middle class, like the 10 to 30th best player on this team, that's where I get a little bit worried right now. Hopefully some of those guys get better, but I think there are questions there. So is your bracket busted? I don't think the answer is going to be yes for very many of these. There weren't that many upsets, unless you're like Chip and you took Clemson, or if you had St. John's going pretty far. That one could sting, but I think like it was like 2/3 of everyone either had Auburn, Florida, or Duke winning, like, or even it was like 70% of the nation had one of those three teams, if not higher. So, yeah, I don't think there's a lot of busted brackets. Chris, do you have any chance of winning the Chat Sports bracket pool, or are you out? And I know you were kind of in a dicey spot when you checked this morning.
I'm in 6th right now. I'm tied for 6th, so I think I'm in a pretty decent spot.
Who'd you have winning again?
I took the homer pick and went with Alabama.
Oh, so then you have a real chance of winning.
Yeah, so
if they actually win.
If Alabama wins, I'm the only one that picked them.
So you're pretty much guaranteed to win then.
Okay. If that's the case, yeah.
I think executive producer Brett Scott has me beat. I don't think I'll be able to catch him, but I think I can catch Brett. It's Marshall I can't catch. Me and Marshy have the same Final Four, so I'm kind of cooked there. But I can finish second, and then other brackets I'm still in decent shape for too. So Ecuadorian says Sweet 16 games are there in Atlanta for him. It's be fun. I went to a Final Four in Atlanta one year, which was awesome in college. Buddy's dad had tickets. He had a wedding couldn't go to, so he just gave them to us. It was awesome.
One of my buddies looked up Sweet 16 tickets for this Alabama game.
Oh,
I think it was for like all of the sections or whatever for every single one of the games, and it was like 2 tickets was like $1,600 for the Sweet 16 too.
That's only going to get more expensive too. So, all right, who do you want the Cowboys to draft in round 1? Then we'll get to Perk 30's super chat here in a second. No wrong answers. It's all opinion-based stuff. Keep it like kind of realistic. Like, hey, I'd love a dual card or Travis Hunter. It's not going to happen. I do have the bong mask photos cooked up, though. TBD when I'll drop them. But Twitter's editing feature is better now, and it's just like we've unlocked new levels. It's also very clearly fake. Like, you can tell it's AI created, but it fits the purpose of the joke there. So, Genty, T-Mac. Edward asked about Mason Graham in a trade down to Igbuka, T-Mac or a trade down, and then draft Hampton. T-Mac, draft a receiver. T-Mac or Golden. T-Mac, I think that's fair. Clayton says me. I guess that's a lot of money for you. You get that fully guaranteed contract, so when, we all get cut, we're fine there. So get those votes in for me. Who do you want the Cowboys to draft in round 1? Perk 30 with, looks like part of a Washington quote, which is probably like, don't believe everything you read on the internet or something. Incredibly unlikely, but if Tet and Genty both fall to 12, what's the move? I do think it's unlikely. I think one of them is off the board in the first 10 picks at minimum. Maybe even the first 6 picks, by the way, with the Raiders and Patriots lurking. I'm going to have Genty higher on my board. I also think that the combination of McMillan and insert round 2/round 3 back is a better combination than Genty and insert round 2, round 3 back. So I would lean McMillan, where the grades for me are close enough that the positional value would outweigh, and I would go McMillan. That might not be how everyone has him graded. And, if they don't have the same grades, then you take the better player, you take Genty. I don't think there's going to be a ton of people that have Genty straight up behind McMillan, unless you kind of get into the positional value consideration. So when you see the big board and when we do our live Cowboys draft coverage, it's not going to factor in positional value stuff outside of special teamers. I kind of factor that in, but there's no way not to do it from that one. Plus, they're not people anyway, so who cares? So you'll see Genty above McMillan, but not by a lot of spots. And both guys almost assuredly would be the best guy on the board, or at least the top 2 guys on the board, if they get to 12. Wrong timing on the switch. I hate when it does that on the graphic side. Chris Broussard actually put in thoughts on the morning routine guy. This is the guy that put the banana on his face and ducked his head in cold water, right? That's the one we're talking about. I'm pretty sure. The banana thing's weird and feels like engagement bait. That's what that's not. It's not how normal people operate. The whole, but like putting your head in cold water, that's just like waking yourself up. I actually don't have any issues with that at all. And I think it's called a shower, is what most people do it as. But, that one's fine. And then I think I heard he was getting evicted, too, which was kind of funny. So, I don't know. I don't know anything about him. I'm not, as you can tell from the body shape, I'm not exactly into the fitness creator sphere. So, whatever. All right, if you want us to start today's live show, then hit that like button. We're always aiming for the 50% like ratio. We did not get there on today's show, but help us out. Like that video if you haven't already. The live stream, I should probably specify. We're also one like away from 69 likes, which will probably blow right by, but it's super fun when that ends up happening. 68 likes. Can we get to 69 before we move to 78? Told you we're going to move way by it. All right, coming up on today's live show, free agency winners and losers. I kind of want to, not like the individual contracts. We will do that later whenever I get the damn Calais Campbell contract details, but like big picture stuff for guys that kind of already on the roster. Cowboys rumors and news coming up here as well. A mailbag. Get your questions in via hashtag Cowboys or skip the line altogether with that hashtag Cowboys, and the super chat gets you in there. We'll also run through the Cowboys depth charts. Just going to get to the super chats here, too. I figure we might as well hit those now. That's the Cowboys depth charts, and then some free agency buzz to kind of kick things off on today's show. A couple super chats I do want to get to here as well from both Chris Broussard's Burner and Ecuador Man AOG in just a second. So stand by for those two super chats. Chris has got to get the stream to at least 10,000. I think liking's free, simple, easy. Just do it. And we appreciate it when you do. Ecuador Man says 40-plus for wide receivers, 45-plus for defensive ends. How can you justify running backs? I don't know if you're referring to the contract costs for Lamb and Micah or just like the top of the market in general for wide receivers and edges and like the value that those guys bring position-wise compared to a running back. Either one of those I think are fair to me, are fair things to bring up. And my argument would also be, hey, if you filled all your needs and you're aggressive in free agency like Philadelphia has been, you can then kind of like be willing to spend more on a running back. That's what Philadelphia did. They thought there was value. They did it. And at that point, like first-round pick and free agency value gets a little bit similar there, but it needs clarified market value. I think that's a great point. And that's why in general, there are exceptions. In like with everything in life, I would like to focus on those money positions: wide receiver, edge, quarterback, offensive tackle, and you can sometimes work in corner there as well. That's what the NFL tells you. These are the positions we value. So if you hit on those picks, hit on those positions early, you're maximizing your value. That's how smart teams approach it. Now, you have to make sure you get the right player. Because drafting hypothetically a receiver who's bad as opposed to the running back who's good kind of doesn't, at that point, the value save doesn't matter because you're not getting value, period. But I think philosophically, it's very, very good points there. All right, let's get into the live show here right now. Update on the sub-battle right now between the Cowboys Report and the Commanders Report with a little over a week to go here. We have narrowly taken the lead over the Commies in subs this month. Let's continue to pull away. Hit that sub button for more free Cowboys YouTube videos each and every single day, multiple times per day here on the channel. We'll talk free agency kind of in-depth on today's show. Blogging the Boys and others, including many of you in the comments, have suggested the Cowboys go pursue defensive lineman Calais Campbell. And in general, yeah, I'm in. There are some concerns and cons here and whatnot, but Calais Campbell's kind of reached that journeyman phase of his NFL career. He spent some time with the Ravens. He spent 2023 with the Falcons. He spent 2022 with the Miami Dolphins. And what have we noticed out of Calais Campbell? He keeps producing. All he does is continuously produce against the run and against the pass, even if the snap counts kind of continue to dip. He's got that size that's very unique and rare. He can play 3 technique, can play 5, can play defensive end, offers some inside-outside flexibility, which I think this team could still use up front. I think he's a good run stopper, even though he continues to be older, and only gets older, I should say. I think he's a better player than Solomon Thomas is right now. I look at this defensive line room and I go, okay, yeah, you probably need more than Osa, Mozzie, and Solomon Thomas. I look at the defensive end room and go, okay, I've got bodies, Micah and Dante and Nealand and Sam Williams and Peyton Turner. How many of those guys think are better right now than Calais Campbell? I think he'd be one of your better defensive linemen. So I am down with this idea. Now, I also make note of 2 things. One, I've been on board before. This is not a new conversation we've had here. It's always been, he's old but still good. We've had that conversation like 3 or 4 years in a row now. He's good but old, and he still keeps doing the exact same stuff there. He is still productive even though he is 38 years old. He does turn 39 in September. This is an Iron Man. This is a rare breed of football player to play as long as he has at the level he has had. Now, again, the money's a factor. Maybe a post-draft signing is in play here. The Cowboys in line for 3 comp picks after losing Brandon Cooks. They probably don't want to lose those, so it'd probably be either $3 million or maybe you revisit after the draft. So would you sign Calais Campbell? And that could be, maybe it's after the draft, and maybe he wants to wait too even. Why for yes and for no? Let me know in the comments of today's video. It's the pinned comment, actually. So if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Let's move to Asante Samuel Jr. The Athletic, John Machota, mentioning him as a potential top free agent target left for the Cowboys. And like the Calais Campbell conversation, again, I'm intrigued. The Cowboys cornerback room right now, you've brought back Izzy Mukuamu on a very cheap deal. Trayvon Diggs is questionable at best to play week 1. He's probably going to miss some time. Deron Bland is a damn good football player, but beyond Bland, it's, okay, Kalen Carson coming off injury, a down year. Do you trust him? Izzy can be a nickel, but he hasn't played a lot. Kaiir Elam, you're banking on rehabbing the bust prospect. Josh Butler is banged up. He probably isn't going to be ready for week 1 either. Kamon Hall, Andrew Booth. Like, it's not a great group of cornerbacks right now. It's just not. It's thin. It's a thin group of proven talent. Asante Samuel Jr. didn't play a lot last year. He's had some injury stuff. He's had some inconsistencies over the course of his career. Remember the one year when everyone was like, oh, Trayvon Diggs had the most yards in the NFL, which like was only true on PFF and other sites, so do keep that in mind. And then remember how like no one ever talked about that again. Like there was one year where people got mad about yards allowed from a national perspective because it was Trayvon Diggs and the Cowboys, and it's never been brought up since then. Asante Samuel was the player of the year after, which, again, he's been inconsistent over the course of his NFL career. But we're also in late March. This is kind of a beggars can't be choosers situation, and when you're available in late March in most cases, the contract's probably not going to be that expensive. So would you sign Asante Samuel Jr.? Go voice your opinion for me in the comments of today's show. S for sign, P for pass. Now, I would have a lot of interest in adding Asante Samuel Jr. to the Cowboys roster because they need cornerback help. They lack the proven commodities right now on the outside and, frankly, in the nickel. Now, over the course of his career, Samuel has mostly played on the outside. But I would argue he has the traits and the skill set to kick inside and play the nickel as well. He just hasn't done it really even dating back to his Florida State days. There's one massive issue here beyond the whole, like, would the Cowboys ever pay for a player in free agency conversation? And that's the length involved here. Samuel's arm length barely cleared 30 inches. And over the last 10-plus years, basically, the Cowboys hate short-armed corners. Really, since Will McClay kind of took control of the drafting with his scouts, of course, they don't like drafting short-arm corners. The shortest is Chidobe Awuzie at 30 5/8 inches. The majority of those guys have way longer arms. That is a huge reason why they never really considered drafting Asante Samuel when they made the bad pick of taking Kelvin Joseph instead. It is a threshold that they use and rarely will break. Sometimes they'll do it for outside guys in UDFAs like a Kamon Hall. Kaiir Elam doesn't have that much longer arms than he's kind of in the Awuzie range. But most of their investments in corner have at least 31-inch arms and almost always 32-inch arms. And given that sometimes I feel like this Cowboys front office, their pro personnel department kind of leans almost too heavily on the draft department for some of their evals, that I think is a pretty big red flag. So we will have plenty of Cowboys draft videos for you here, speaking of that whole draft conversation. Don't miss out. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/@CowboysTV, for more free Cowboys YouTube videos. I want to wrap up today's convo with some talk about Trey Lance. The Cowboys, for now, just have Will Grier behind Dak Prescott. And maybe this team is going to adopt the, it's the old Tom Moore quote. If 18's down, we're effed, and we don't practice effed, so they didn't care about the backup QB because it never would have worked anyway. But you need to have somebody out there. So is there any chance of a return? Like Stephen Jones made this sound very unlikely early in the offseason. They've since lost Cooper Rush. I don't think they were terribly surprised by that. They could have retained Cooper Rush if they wanted to. That didn't really seem to be a likely pursuit given the not expensive contract Cooper Rush got. And we know the Cowboys want to draft somebody. My big question here is, okay, let's say we get to the draft. The 5th-round QBs all go off the board early. Dallas doesn't bother reaching on a QB, and they kind of get left with no options. In that scenario, maybe it makes a little bit of sense for Lance to come back with one big if this Cowboys coaching staff trusts him. I don't – the fact that Lance couldn't get on the field really makes me wonder if he wasn't a very good practice player. And coaches normally don't give the reins to practice players who struggle. That's not new. So do you want to bring Trey Lance back? 1 for yes, 0 for no. Sound off for me in the comment section of today's show. The most we've seen of Trey Lance was really in the preseason. And he had the turnover-prone game against the Chargers. He does offer great mobility. And what is still kind of a weird thing to say out loud, Trey Lance is only 24 years old. He turns 25 in May. He is younger than some of the draft prospects this year. He also has barely played football. Like honestly, the snap counts at North Dakota State were very low. He got the wrong side of the COVID impact there. He hasn't played a lot in the NFL. He needs playing time. I don't think he's going to command much of a market. I don't know who's going to kind of sign him to be a developmental prospect. Like he's kind of stuck in this weird spot where 2 teams have tried him and both teams said, what are you going to do with that? No one's viewed him as a starter. And the timing probably doesn't work out now because the UFL is about to resume. But if I were Trey Lance, I would go play in the UFL. Now, look, up front, there's an ego ding you have to accept there. To go from number 3 overall pick in the NFL to playing in the UFL is not – there's a lot you have to be willing to accept. But it gets you playing time. The thing I think Trey Lance needs more than anything. So if I were Lance, I would go play for the in the UFL for the season, and then go be an NFL free agent. And then you've got more film, more examples like I can still do this, and that. I'm working on this, whatever. And then I try to find a backup QB job somewhere. Maybe where there's an established veteran and you can kind of still try to be the developmental QB. But even though he's only 24, again, turns 25 in May, the developmental QB stuff kind of starts to lose its luster when you've been in the NFL for 4 years and haven't really shown any growth, unfortunately. All right, back to some draft conversation here. Who do you want the Cowboys to draft in round 1? Opinion, of course, question. So let me know in the comments of today's show who you want the Cowboys to draft. Then there is a super chat I want to get to here. Chris Snow, $5. Thank you, Chris. Will we be mad if the Cowboys take a tackle at 12 that no one's talking about and low on everyone's board? I know Jerry likes to do that stuff. Okay, so of note, they normally do that outside. Well, I guess it's 2 different things. The Tyler Smith pick, I think, caught a lot of people by surprise. And Mel Kiper is still, riding the high of, well, Mel knows what he's talking about with the Cowboys. He had Smith as a right tackle for Dallas. No, he just got lucky. That's what happened. Fine. Sometimes I get all the times in mock drafts. It's a mock draft. That's how it goes. A lot of us talked about Guyton too, though. I would be surprised if they took an offensive tackle or really offensive lineman, period, in round 1. I think receiver makes a ton of sense for them. I think corner is in place, specifically Will Johnson. They will never draft Jahdae Barron in round 1 with the arm length. I love Barron, but that's not their style, even though I think he'd be a great fit and great player for them. Can never count out edge. I think they like Micah Williams, which I don't like that pick. So I guess there's your pick that no one's talking about and low on everyone's board. I just don't like it. I mentioned receiver. And then, if Genty's there, I think that's also in play. Lucid Chart 32. If we get Tet, I'll be happy. That's a 1-2 punch with him and CD. Give me a back in round 2 or 3, and we are cooking. I think this is a both realistic and good outcome. You get the guy that I think is the best receiver in the class in a loaded running back group. I was looking back at my notes. I'm not as far deep into the day 3 guys as Dane is. I think Dane said he has over 30 draftable grades on backs. I went back and looked last year, and I was pushing to get to 20. I'm going to spend a lot of time on backs this year. I'm probably going to have 40 at least evals on backs, which is insane. I've done my quarterbacks, which is earlier than what I normally am. But then they're going to look at day 3 guys, so I wanted to be ahead. The running back class is it's insane. So you can get I was looking back at my board last year. Let me pull this up here, just on this conversation topic. I had 6 players in my top 100 because I was high on Tyrone Tracy. Win for me. But I had 1 guy in my top 50. I will probably have 3, if not 4 backs inside my top 50. I had 3 guys graded inside either cheater, 2nd, 3rd round grades or above that. I had 5 3rd round grades. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 to 8 3rd round grades. Everything is just there's just more volume. And then, Lord, once you get to the 4th round, I think I already have 12. And I had 10. I'm not done yet. It's a really strong back class. That means you should be able to find value at some point. All right, the Super Chat menu on today's show. The $5 Venmo gets you into the Micah decision pool. Pick your date that Micah signs or is traded. And if you get it right, you get the 50-50 split the pot there. You got to push it across and then come back to the Super Chat menu. Thank you, Chris. $5. Closest one wins it. So already got a bunch of entries right now. You can go check those in. Or go check them at chatsports.com/Micah to see said entries. As a 50-50 split the pot there. $20 for the shots or the beaned boozled. So we got shots. $50 for a beer bong. Most 50s in the month of March gets the signed Zach Martin jersey. The first 50 of the day counts as 2 entries. I'm only going to do 1 beer bong, but it's 2 entries there in the end. So 50s, that has not been done yet. So the first 50 gets 2, and you can gain some ground on the current leader, Anthony McMillan, who has the lead right now at 8 at this moment. Lucid Chart, how much do you bet Jerry is on his boat? Happy he did something in free agency to make his team worse. I can pull up where the boat is right now. Hold on. Let me pull it up here. Let's see. During free agency, it was docked off the coast of Florida, so it hasn't moved in free agency. So I don't think they've been showing on the yacht very much actually, which is probably a good thing in the end. So I'm sure he's enjoying it and is liking it so far. That'd be my guess. At some point they'll come out and say, "Look at all the things we did. You're mad at us for not doing stuff. Now you're mad at us for doing stuff." In the end. I will make note here. This is just an unofficial time. We'll get the official one later. Xavier Restrepo, the Hurricanes receiver. This is a hand time from a reporter, so it might not be accurate. 4.76. 40. I even let's just say it's like a 4.6 or that's just. I knew he was slow. I didn't think he was fast. I didn't think we're gonna have 4.7s, also a 4.8 hand time. I'll wait till Dame puts the actual one out there, the ones that teams use, but that's real concerning for a receiver. If you're interested in receivers there. Marcus Arnold, $5. If they don't make safeties sneak a peek in the backfield early in the season, they're going to suck again. Got to take a back with 12. So I actually think that the first part of this makes sense. That you need to make play action work, to be a more balanced offense, not balanced for the sake of being balanced. That's 50% run, 50% passes, 50% stupid. But you do need to have some type of threat of the ground game. And, back when they had Zeke, the virtue of spending a fourth overall pick and then paying him gave the threat. Teams had to be aware of that. I don't think teams have fared the ground game the same way in recent years. And most importantly, even when teams dare the Cowboys to run with light boxes, they haven't been able to run the ball. I think you can fix that, but you don't have to take a back with 12 to fix that. I think you have to be able to run the football when teams dare you. Your O-line has to be better, and I think at some point you have to draft it back. I don't think it has to be, though, at pick number 12 overall. It could be in round 2, round 3, and it still works out, I think, pretty well for you. On today's Cowboys Report, we're breaking down some free agency winners and losers. I don't know if Dallas is going to make any more deals of notes. They've been pretty quiet the past couple days in a row now. And this is kind of more big picture. It's not about the individual deals and what deal was great or bad. We'll break all those down in depth later on. I'm talking big picture, wide view look of some guys that are kind of already on the roster even. Now, if you want more free Cowboys videos, we've already broken down every single signing this team ended up making. But we'll have more throughout the free agency, the draft, offseason, training camp, etc. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/@CowboysTV. First winner is all the different incumbent wide receivers on this team because all the Cowboys did was add Paris Campbell. Still waiting on the Paris Campbell contract details. At some point, we'll get the fact that it's a 1-year probably vet minimum, little to no guarantee. But I want to have it official first, right? And he's not a real threat to steal snaps, I don't think. He was off and on the Eagles practice squad last year. This is a kind of a rare camp body signing from the Cowboys. So if you're Jalen Tolbert, if you're Kevontae Turpin, if you're Jonathan Mingo, if you're Jalen Brooks, if you're Ryan Flournoy, you're going, okay, I still got a chance here. Now, Tolbert was the receiver really at 2 last year. He was better. The touchdown numbers actually look pretty good, but I didn't see enough consistency on the outside. And I'm hoping for a fourth-year breakout, but I want to put Tolbert as my receiver 3. And I think they're going to draft somebody, but as of right now, this hasn't been a draft and sign somebody big class, which benefits Tolbert. Turpin did re-sign on a multi-year deal. We'll see if he gets more touches. I have my doubts. So I think he is a horizontal stretcher, not a vertical stretcher. But he can still carve out a role. Jonathan Mingo, who may benefits the most out of anybody to not have all these changes going on in the wide receiver room, he didn't do anything with Dallas. And look, the targets were high. Not there were a bunch of drops. The passes weren't very good. We could acknowledge that. He was your 4th-round pick at wide receiver, which was a bad pick, but you have to get more at that spot. Ryan Flournoy was a day 3 pick last year. He's fighting for a roster spot. Same way Jalen Brooks, who was a 7th-round pick 2 years ago, has been fighting for a roster spot. The fewer bodies, especially early round ones, the Cowboys add, or big money free agents they add, better chance those guys can carve out a role, even though I would bet probably one of Brooks and Flournoy is not on the active roster, barring injuries. I think a lot of us want to go get a receiver. I think they will get a receiver, but so far they haven't, really. So be honest with me. What is your confidence level in this Cowboys wide receiver room? Scale it from 1 to 10 at the pinned comment. If the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. 1 to 10 is your scale. Tyler Guyton, Terence, Steele, also free agency winners for me because the Cowboys, have had praise. We'll get to the Brian Schottenheimer clip from the Combine here in a little bit. But the Cowboys have had praise for Guyton. They've had praise for Steele, both public and even leaked stuff to media. And they haven't added any competition. They haven't brought in anybody else to pursue and consider and break down. It's all just been, we're going to ride with Guyton and we'll ride with Steele. Plus, Brian Schottenheimer had this to say at the NFL Combine.
You know, you watch Cooper Beebe, Tyler Guyton, those guys. Tyler Guyton's been in the weight room every day. He's working his ass off. And to me, that's really exciting. But I think the influence of Clayton, the influence of Connor Riley, I think that package was so important for us, and I think we hit a home run.
Oh, look, there's always the chance the Cowboys are just saying the right thing publicly and their actions will speak differently. But they haven't done anything to indicate that they're not extremely comfortable going into the year with Guyton and Steele. Guyton has to be better. I think we all know that. The penalties were way too damn high. You can't have over a penalty per game. That is unacceptable. You got to get that number down. If you get the penalties down, I think we all feel actually better about his play, and some of the technique stuff should continue to grow as he gets more playing time. And in theory, the coaching staff needs to benefit Guyton and Terence Steele. I think Clayton Adams thinks he can get a lot more out of Steele than what the previous regime did. That's kind of the vibe and the guess I have for this Cowboys team. Plus, Adams, frankly, kind of said pretty similar stuff. It's a lot of risk involved there, but you did pay him and spend a first-round pick on a tackle. So I actually don't hate the Cowboys plan to let those two guys go and play, and we can always revisit again next year. Next up is Will Grier. Look, he's the backup quarterback right now. There's nobody else on the roster at QB at this moment. It's Dak and it's Grier. With Rush gone off to Baltimore, and I think Lance still unlikely to return, there's no other quarterback 2 option. Now, I think the Cowboys are still going to draft somebody. We haven't seen Will Grier play a real football game, non-preseason, since 2019, which is kind of insane to think about there. I bet they draft a player, but still, like, he went from like practice squad pickup, late season, whatever, and now we're riding with Hayes, the quarterback 2. Makes him an obvious winner, at least for now. Again, this can all change later. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. It is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You simply pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. It is available in more than 30 states, including California, Texas, Georgia, and Florida. They invented the flex play, which means if you get one wrong, you can still cash out. You can double your money even if one of those picks ends up being wrong. This is my one of the football Prize Pick slates we got here. Jared Goff, less than passing yards. Travis Kelce, less than receiving yards. And Jaden Daniels, less than rushing yards. I like more thans mostly. I think the less thans are the right play there. Go download the Prize Picks app today over at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play that first $5 lineup. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Next up on the free agency winners, Israel Mukuamu. That is the corner. Look, he did not get a lot on his deal. It was a pretty cheap, non-guaranteed deal. This could be your 2024 version, or 2025 version, of Rico Dowdle, where he didn't get paid big money, but he's got a path to playing time, and he's shown some promise. The staff likes him when he's been given a chance to play. As of right now, he's probably your day one starter at nickel. It's probably Deron Bland, and then Kaiir Elam, Kalen Carson on the outside, and Izzy at the nickel spot. By the way, I don't like that. That's not a great grouping. But every time I've seen Mukuamu get a chance to play, good things have happened. He's got fantastic length, which we know the Cowboys like. He's bigger than most nickel corners, but I actually want to see what he's able to do. But it would not stop me from drafting a nickel if I like one. I want you to name a Cowboys free agency winner for me. Let me know in the comments section of today's show who you think is a winner for the Cowboys in free agency. This next winner ties right into the loser side, by the way. But it's the Cowboys Pie. It is virtually untouched. For all the Cowboys have done, they have signed all these different players and outside free agents, knowing that as of them, we don't quite know all the details yet on the Cowboys contracts. The Cowboys have around $40 million in salary cap space still. Thereabouts. Some sites say 38. It's probably right around the $40 million mark there. Not including your draft picks, which will count about 6-ish, by the way, when it's all said and done. That's it. They've got a lot of money to spend. The pie, hasn't really been consumed yet because the Cowboys never seemed to do it. I want you to grade the Cowboys' free agency moves A, B, C, D, or F. So far, how do you feel about what they've done? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. A, B, C, D, or F. Some losers. The Cowboys, if we believe the reports from ESPN, The Athletic, and others, they did try to add some bigger names. They just didn't get them. Todd Arch said they were very much in on Brandon Stevens, but he got 3 years, 36 from the Jets. Dre Greenlaw got $331.5 from Denver. Maybe he and Travarius Ward weren't going to pick the Cowboys as their landing spot, but they were allegedly involved in all three of those options. But they didn't land any of them. Been a while since they actually won a bit of a bidding war. They seem to be a little bit too concerned about not losing the deal in free agency. Next up is Damone Clark, and I would not be surprised if we get to September and he's not on the roster on his current contract. The Cowboys added 2 linebackers to play ahead of Damone Clark, Kenneth Murray and Jack Sanborn. Clark has about a $3.26 million base salary. The Cowboys could save that if they cut him. It's a lot of money to save for a number 4 at best linebacker right now, and that's with a healthy DeMarvion Overshown. Murray's going to be ahead of him. Sanborn's going to be ahead of him. Leofau's going to be ahead of him. Once Overshown's healthy, he's going to be ahead of Damone Clark. It's a lot to pay for a guy that, look, I don't always want to stat sheet hunt. It's a bad idea. But I do think just the lack of splash impact plays by Damone Clark, A, on the film, but B, in the stat sheet too, is indicative of, okay, he makes some tackles, but, he's not an impact linebacker. I think the additions of Murray and Sanborn are a sign of this team is about to be out on Damone Clark, especially if and when they draft somebody too. So name a Cowboys free agency loser for me. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Next up, it's the Micah Parsons situation. Because again, the Cowboys didn't play this right. Imagine if they had done everything in their power. They clearly did not. Imagine if they had them in their power to pay Micah Parsons early. If they tried to pay him last year instead of waiting. The Cowboys have yet to do so. The market, as it always does, has only gone up. And in the end, that probably hurts the Dallas Cowboys more than anyone else. It's going to be $40.5 million and 70% guaranteed and a record-setting deal. I am firm, I believe, that it's going to happen. It will get done. When it gets done is the question mark. It shouldn't take long to do. It could be done in a day if the Cowboys really wanted to. And all parties involved really wanted to. That has not happened since, for some reason, this team in particular has a tough time getting their top-of-the-market guys paid. Now, on that note, if you haven't already, we are doing the Micah decision pool. 50-50 split the pot for the person with the closest correct guess on when Micah Parsons signs or, I guess, ends up getting traded. If, a decision ends up getting made. Venmo me at WhatGoingDowney with your date and $5 to enter. You can also go to chatsports.com/Micah to see the entries in there so far. There are a couple. That way you don't pick the exact same one as somebody else if you can avoid it. Final loser here is Deuce Vaughn, the running back. The Cowboys have signed 2. They added Javonte Williams. They added Miles Sanders. Now, those guys' contracts are not indicative of a guaranteed roster spot, but they're going to draft at least one. So Deuce Vaughn is very much on the roster bubble. I saw, especially in 2024, he made some good stuff happen once he finally got the ball, but he hasn't gotten the football on a very consistent basis. And at his size, there are always going to be concerns there. So I think you do run into the issue of, hey, is this somebody you trust to be a key part? With limited special teams value, it's tough to make it as that RB3. Now it is time for a mailbag here on the Cowboys Report. 2 ways to get on the show. Use hashtag Cowboys or skip the line altogether by super chatting. And then hashtag Cowboys gets you in the queue. Super chat guarantees you get on the show. We'll get Chris Snow's super chat as part of the mailbag, by the way. Minor free agency updates here. Saints have signed Ugo Amadi, and they have signed Dylan Radins, who was terrible in Tennessee. So, seems semi-noteworthy. Neither guy were Cowboys, but I just saw NFL news, want to mention it. Hashtag Cowboys or Super Chat to skip the line all together on the show. What's up, Chris? You're going to see? No, we've not done that one yet. So we will also do that in free agency. Good call. Good call. Thank you. So again, use hashtag Cowboys. Skip the line all together via Super Chat. Again, any $50 Super Chats is a beer bong. The first 50 of the day will count double on the signed Zach Martin jersey entry. Right now, 8 is the leader, so 50 counts too for 1 on that one there. $20 for shots or being boozled, by the way, as well. We went to the Micah pool. We're probably good there. It's $5 to enter the Micah pool at What Going Downey with your prediction of when Micah signs, and we'll do a 50-50 split the pot. But mailbag coming up next year. Use hashtag Cowboys or guarantee you get on the show with a super chat. There are also, as always, several super thanks to get to. A super thanks, once again, leads off today's mailbag from Mighty Ants 0215. I want T-Mac because he doesn't have to be receiver 1 in his rookie year, so they can take the top off and let CD breathe. In my honest opinion, St. John's NCAA. This obviously came in before this weekend's games, and I'm sorry that you had St. John's in your bracket, Mighty Ants. I do think T-Mac is the best option for the Cowboys at wide receiver in round 1, and I'm not going to change that. Now, this came in via Super Thanks. It is a feature here on YouTube. Allows you to edit your message, send in whatever you want to send in. Click the thanks icon, edit, send it. We'll give you a shout out on the show because we appreciate your support here, keeping the lights on at the Cowboys Report. B-Phil's 10. Tom, what do you think the new contract for Aubrey will look like? Also, what is our full list of free agents? I did go to the full list as a reply to this comment. Aubrey, I assume, just becomes the highest paid kicker, both average per year and guaranteed money. I think that's pretty straightforward. So that's $6.5 per year and $18 million guaranteed over 4 to 5 years. Plus or minus some change there. But that's, I think, about what you're looking at there. Again, not that hard of a contract, frankly. Your free agents, barring cuts and trades and extensions, are Kenneth Murray, Donovan Wilson, Robert Jones, Kyer Elam, Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, Tyler Smith, but fifth-year option, so kind of not. Peyton Turner, Sam Williams, Israel Mukuamu, Jack Sanborn, TJ Goodwin, Jalen Tolbert, Will Grier, Jake Ferguson, Andrew Booth, Wanye Thomas, Damone Clark, Deron Bland, Matt Let's Go, Dante Fowler, Paris Campbell, plus Micah if no deal, which you'd franchise tag in there if for some reason you didn't get there. So a lot of guys volume-wise, but only a handful of starters. Nathan Neal. Say Shedeur slides because the draft can be weird. And one of those teams in the back half of the draft wants to trade up for him. Steelers, the Rams. What would you see Dallas get in a trade back? And if so, do you want them to? And if so, what could they get? Again, the trade downs are always a bit dicey because it assumes someone wants to move up them. I would actually be a bit worried if Shedeur slid past like 7. That has me like, okay, hey, are you like, is he going to have a deeper slide beyond 12 and into the 20s? And those teams don't have to move up for him there. That's a concern I have. But in general, like you trade down to the Steelers pick, it'd be roughly their second rounder. It's a little bit less than their second rounder, which they don't have. So that becomes complicated. The Rams is a second rounder and change. Now, maybe you get a quarterback tax kind of boosted on there. I'm not so sure. But I think that a rough second rounder in that range is kind of the over-under value there. And you go a little bit further down and get more. Less further down, ends up becoming a third, somewhere in that ballpark. But you got more value in your trade down last year. I don't know if you get that same boost this year. So do you want to trade down in round 1? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know at the pinned comment of today's video. If the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. From Lucid Chart 32, a $10 super chat. Thank you, Lucid. He says, I'm so ready for Jerry to come out with excuses saying did everything good to make the team better, when in fact his scared us about an outside free agent to make the team better. Thanks. When in fact he is scared. Yeah, I agree. They did more volume. The quality is kind of going to remain the same, just more volume of it, which is progress, but again, it's still like the guaranteed money spent outside of Osa was, again, not very much. Chris Snow, is it too early about safety in next year's draft since Jerry won't get one this year? It seems like he never does. I like Muhammad from Texas. So he's talking 2026. For me, yes. I do like Muhammad. That's the Texas corner, Jabbar Muhammad. I like what I've seen from him at corner. He's not a safety, though, which I think is – or wait, Muhammad is the Oregon one. Yeah, I'm thinking. Sorry. I always mix those two up for some reason. Malik Muhammad is his name. He's a corner for Texas. I don't know why I keep mixing up those two. I did it last time. I think someone asked about Muhammad too, which is kind of crazy. Anyway, I think he's a corner, which also could very well be a big need for you in next year's draft. From Trey, is there a scenario the Cowboys trade Micah Parsons for a ton of draft picks? A scenario in the multiverse? Yes. I think that is there is a scenario. Is it likely? I don't think so. I think that this team also isn't spending money on players. They've got obviously huge deals for Dak and CeeDee Lamb, and then reasonable-ish deals for Diggs, who might not be here next year. Terence Steele is actually not expensive among tackles. They're not paying a lot of guys. It's not like they've got it's kind of like the Bengals. Like, oh my God, they paid Jamar and T, which first off people said they weren't going to, then they didn't. Then they changed their story. But the Bengals don't have anyone else to pay. You can pay Micah and Bland and Tyler Smith. And there's not that many other guys in your pipeline right now, which is also an issue. So what would you do with Micah Parsons? T for trade, P for pass. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. What would you do with Micah Parsons? William Cook, if T-Mac and Genty are gone at 12, I think the Cowboys would trade down, and if so, how far? I think a trade down is possible. Depends on if there's a guy they like, whether it's Will Johnson, I think they like Micah Williams, maybe somebody else. But at that point, I am trying to trade down. I would want to know how many guys I would be okay taking. Is it some combination of, let's say it's Will Johnson, insert edge here, insert lineman here, Matthew Golden and Ibuka? I'm probably not trying to trade down beyond 17, 18, because the worst case scenario is I move down a lot and then I get sniped. And the guys that I thought I was going to trade down for are all gone, and now I'm really scrambling. So I would be maybe a bit more conservative than I would normally be in terms of a trade down option. King R, you really sure on T-Mac? Dak doesn't do well with non-separation receivers, and he pushes off a lot. Plus, no video evidence on his 4.40. So, several notes here. A, he didn't run 4.4. That was agent speak. He ran in the low to mid 4.5s. I think 4.53 was the number Dane had, which is about what I thought he was going to be. I don't really care that much about push-off because OPI never gets called. That's fine. The reason why I like him is that he moves a lot better in terms of fluidity for someone of his size. I don't think this is a pure contested catch wide receiver. He makes a bunch of them, but I think he has the ability. He did slot stuff for Arizona. He has body control. And, it'd be great to have guys that are always wide open. All Dak was doing the past, even last year when he was so good, not last year, 2023, Lamb got open, nobody else did. It's he's been productive with non-separation receivers. I also don't consider T-Mac a non-separator. I've seen it enough where he's able to get open and able to make guys miss. He's got way better yak for someone than you'd expect. He had 29 forced missed tackles. It's an insane figure for a receiver. He is not a burner. He is not 4.4 speed guy. He's kind of more in the 4.5 guys. He's kind of a little bit more like T. Higgins, frankly. Higgins has longer arms, but T-Mac still got the body control. Or he's not going to be some shifty, crazy slot receiver, elite route runner. But it's the everything else. It's the body control, the vertical stuff, the sideline stuff, the after catch stuff, the dig route stuff. I think makes him a really good fit in the NFL. Now, if you like our Cowboys mailbags, great. You're at the right spot. Hit that sub button right now. YouTube.com/CowboysTV. Chris Snow, do you see Jerry stepping down the next 5 years? Who's to say? We'll see how Jerry's doing medical-wise. That's always a concern at that age, frankly, from an operations perspective. I think you've kind of seen him step down a little bit. You've seen him not be as involved. He's given more control over to Steven. He's let the family business, the next generation have a lot more input. Step down as GM and title, I don't know if he's going to do that until the day he dies, frankly. Like, he might not ever renounce that title until he's gone. One, if they sign a veteran wide receiver like Amari Cooper or Stephon Diggs, I think he meant, can they still draft T-Mac? I think that's what he meant. And yeah, I think you can. I don't know how the relationships are between Diggs and Cooper for the Cowboys. That's kind of a question mark to me. But I think that's a reasonable option. Daniel, this is the Cortland Sutton trade idea stuff. You get Sutton and a first and 51 for 12, 149 and a future 2. So basically, you're trading down from 12 to 20, swapping 2s, and you're getting the better second round pick value, by the way, because the future 2 is about a third this year. I just don't know. I did a heartbeat. Yeah, I've addressed my wide receiver 2 need. I've still got a first round pick. I'm getting 51 as well. Oh no, I traded away a 5th. I got future 2, whatever. I don't know why Denver would do this. Why is Denver doing this? Their number 2 receiver is not used Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin. I don't get it from Denver's side. If Denver spends round 1 and round 2 picks on a receiver, maybe then becomes a trade candidate. But all Denver has done is give up their 2 best assets and their best receiver for 12 and pick 57 a year from now. I think that's a bad trade for Denver. Freddie, would you trade for Michael Mayer? That is the Notre Dame tight end who seems to be at a career crossroads in Vegas. I don't know what happened with him last year. He kind of stepped away. Not sure what the reasoning was there. I could call. I also don't know if the Cowboys view tight end as a premium need, but if he's cheap enough, yeah, always do your due diligence there, right? So name a player who you want to trade for. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Leroy Pearson Jr., what is your biggest fear going in the draft, and what will lead you to trading down? Kind of the both there. It's they get wiped with the way I view players. And the way they view players is they aren't wiped. And they don't trade down. They take someone I think for me, the realistic one is they take Micah Williams. And that, I don't like that pick at 12. I don't think he's been productive enough. I get that there's usage and injury concerns, but I'm picking at 12. I don't want to have to start making excuses for all my 12th overall pick wasn't good in college. I don't want to do that. That's not a home run pick to me. Even though I got a second round grade, he'll be a top 30 player for me. Trade down, sure. But if T-Mac's gone, and assuming guys like Mason Graham and for me Will Johnson, they might not feel the same way. I know they're not going to be as high on Luther Burden and Jahdae Barham. That's just me. But that's when I would start to trade down. Jace, trade a third for Joe Milton, that'd be insane in a bad way. I could live with a 3rd and 4th round pick swap, but that's still too high. I'm thinking a 6th. That's where I got him at. I had a 6th round grade coming out of him. I will say this too. Man, the Joe Milton stuff was nonsense. That, go back and we did a video on it. Go back and look at the actual report, not the aggregation of it, which was BS. It was teams have called on Joe Milton. Oh, also, hey, the Cowboys lost Cooper Rush. Maybe they could be a team. That's not the Cowboys are a team. That is, that's a spot maybe. Just it was pure speculation that got spun into the Cowboys have interest. It's not what was reported. It's not the case. That's the stuff that bothers me a lot. Now, we think it's your question. Hey, my DMs are open, and it doesn't have to be filled with, links in bio and crypto scam crap on Twitter. Hit me up at WhatGoingDowney on Twitter/X. The Super Chat menu for today's show, $5 on Venmo. You can enter to win the Micah decision pool, 50-50 split the pot for what date Micah ends up signing. $20, shot or being boozled. $50 for the beer bong. There has not been a beer bong yet today. Kind of surprising there. Most 50s in the month of March gets a signed Zach Martin jersey. We are obviously still in the month of March, and the first 50 of the day, still one beer bong, but it counts twice for the entry tracker. Skeptical fan, did I miss anything important? No. Dylan Radin signed a one-year deal. Steelers claim Kidius Smith, I think I mispronounced that, from the Steelers. Curtis Jacobs to the Titans. And, yeah, we're kind of in a lull period. Outside of, like, the occasional big move, like a couple of the receivers and a couple of the quarterbacks, obviously, which don't impact the Cowboys very much, it'd probably be a little bit quiet for the time being. Now, we are in March Madness, so is your bracket busted? This should be a no for like 90% of you. I don't remember what the numbers were on like Duke and picks. Maybe I can pull that up here. Like, I think just the ESPN one. I feel like Duke was just like Duke, Auburn, and Florida were like everyone's picks. Yeah, 25% picked Duke, 21% picked Florida, 10% picked Auburn. Like, that's just high output there. And I've been lucky the last 2 years because I just picked UConn. Sometimes, like, I used to run this issue. Why just go away from the favorite? Why? Just pick the favorite. Y for yes, N for no if your bracket is busted. One more time on the reminder, by the way, on the Micah decision pool. At WhatGoingDowney, $5 to enter on Venmo. You pick the date Micah signs or is traded if you are the closest, or you get it right. It is a 50-50 split the pot winner. You can also go see the entries so far at chatsports.com/Micah. Coming up on today's show, I want to look at the overall Cowboys roster, and that means team, position by position for the team, depth charts, and where things sit and where some more moves are probably going to come. Now, of note, from a pure roster numbers perspective, the Cowboys have one of the most in the NFL. They've got 74 players. The max is 90. There's 10 draft picks. That's 6 spots. So I would expect cuts. You will see the Cowboys maybe cut some players post-draft. It's happened before. And or a pretty small undrafted free agency class for the Cowboys. So the roster outside of the draft, I don't know if you're going to get a ton more additional impact, which may not be a good thing for you. So grade the Cowboys roster. A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. That's youtube.com/@CowboysTV to grade the Cowboys roster. I don't know why I did that part. Just grade the Cowboys roster. I was reading what's on screen. I went full on Ron Burgundy there. Also type L in the comments for me and then go grade the Cowboys roster. Sometimes I do stupid stuff. What are you going to do? Anyway, the quarterback room. It's 2 people right now. It's Dak Prescott and Will Grier. That is it. There is nobody else on the roster. That will not stay the case. Dallas wants a draft pick here. I think in an ideal world, they spend that 5th-round pick on somebody, and he earns the backup role, and they have a cheap, solid, young backup. Not that different than the tried and failed attempt with Trey Lance, but they have to be able to get one, and that has to play out first and foremost. Over to the running back room. Things look very different right now on this side of the ball. Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, Deuce Vaughn, Malik Davis. Hunter Lipke is in there at fullback. So some changes. Javonte Williams comes in after, frankly, a down year with Denver. He has not been the same explosive player the last couple seasons. But he can pass protect, and he is a good pass catcher. And that combination does carry value as a backup. Miles Sanders, meanwhile, wasn't very good in Carolina, was very good in Philadelphia. Schematics, age, offensive line quality were all very different at that spot. So how that all plays out at running back, I don't think Sanders or Williams are locked into roster spots. I would also fully expect a notable draft pick here. I think the day 2 value could align quite nicely for a player the Cowboys like, have a high grade on, ends up being there, maybe even above where they're picking. They're rated the 30th best player, and they're there at 44, or they're graded 50th, and they're there at 76. That, I think, is very, very realistic. I also think the Cowboys could double dip in a loaded class. That would not surprise me. You can take a guy in round 2 or round 3 and take someone in the 5th, 6th, or 7th round. But in terms of that first running back, what round would you draft one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let me know at the pinned comment of today's video. If the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Over to the wide receiver room. You have CeeDee Lamb. It's that number 2 spot that is like, okay, what are you going to do here? Tolbert, Turpin, Mingo, Brooks, Flauno. We don't trust those guys. They signed Paris Campbell. Okay. He was a non-factor for Philadelphia. He was a non-factor in New York. He had a great year in 2022. Maybe you get a redemption season. But I don't think anyone, even the Cowboys, truly consider Paris Campbell a wide receiver 2 option. It is a massive need. Probably one of your biggest needs right now on the Cowboys roster. And there will be options in round 1. Maybe T-Mac is there. I'm high on Luther Burden. Others are high on Matthew Golden and Emeka Egbuka. My grades, I've got a first on T-Mac, a late first on Luther Burden. I'm not going to overthink it. I don't care that his quarterback was terrible. He's a good football player. Matthew Golden has an early round 2 grade. Egbuka has kind of a mid to late round 2 grade. Trade down would be great for one of those guys like Golden or Egbuka. T-Mac's there in the first, man. That's my pick. Tight end wise, I don't know what changes we'll get, if any. You got 5 guys. Jake Ferguson, Luke Schoonmaker, Brevin Spann-Ford, John Stevens coming off of injury, and Princeton Fant. I don't see a massive need here. I don't see a elite level player that means you couldn't draft one if you wanted to, but I don't think this team views tight end as a need they have to address. It'd be kind of like a luxury pick for them, and I don't know if they can afford a luxury pick right now. Offensive line, I think these are your likely starter, at least 4 of the spots. Guyton, Smith, Beebe, Steele. Probably some real competition at right guard between Brock Hoffman, TJ Bass, and Robert Jones. Now, I didn't love what I saw from him in Miami last year. Maybe this schematic change will benefit him. That could be an option, certainly. I think in the end, the Cowboys are mostly hoping for internal growth. Maybe a veteran swing or a day 3 pick, whatever. But a new staff and scheme should help these guys. In general, I would like to draft an offensive lineman at least once a year if I have the ability. I don't know if I can take a top 75 pick on one right now. I don't know if I have the ability with my other needs on this roster. But day 3, why not? It's a dart throw, and worst case, it's good depth. And that's normally a good thing, given the lack of good offensive line play in the NFL. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. It is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. It is available in more than 30 states, including California, Georgia, and Texas. They invented the flex play, which means if you get one wrong, you can still cash out. You can double your winnings even if one of your picks does not hit. This is one of my football Prize Picks slates. I got Jared Goff, less than passing yards. New coaching staff on offense, minus head coach. Travis Kelce, less than receiving yards. He's not going to be as involved, or he's getting older now. And I don't think they want to have Jaden Daniels run a lot. So I'll go less than on that one, too, for the commies. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play that first $5 lineup. Again, folks, link will be in the comments section, and it will be in the description of today's show as well. It's Prize Picks. Run your game. Let's go to the defensive line here at nose guard. You have Mozzie Smith and Justin Rogers. That's not enough. Osa's back on a big-time contract. Cool. Solomon Thomas can help out at depth. Cool. You don't have enough pieces as far as I'm concerned. You need help. Look, I will say this. I would have been very worried about this 3-technique room, this DT room, if they didn't have Osa back. I don't know what they would have done. Milton Williams went for $26 million. I don't know what their plan would have been. Solomon Thomas went for Javon Kinlaw went for 13 or 14 something, in the actual money. So at least you have Osa back. You still need more help here. Solomon Thomas can do some dirty work for you. Great. He wanted to be a Cowboy. Awesome. That's cool. I look at this defensive line room and I go, okay, it could be worse, but you can't be done here. You need more run stopping. It is a concern for me that for a team that's so constant says we got to stop the run, got to be better against the run, they haven't done anything about it. Oaks is not a run stopper. Thomas can do some dirty work, but you're not better against the run than you were last year. Go draft a nose guard again. One of those 5th rounders, draft a 320-pounder who can just sit down, play 20 snaps, and stop the run for you. That would be a great pick. Now, we will have more Cowboys news and rumors and draft and everything else in there. Don't miss out. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/@CowboysTV. The return of Dante Fowler probably puts edge in a decent enough spot. You're hoping Marshall takes a step forward in year 2. You're hoping Sam Williams is healthy and able to make an impact. You are obviously banking on Micah Parsons playing a big role, but I think you have enough pass rushers in this group. Dante Fowler was great last year for the Commanders. It's really a 1-year, $6 million deal, which I was kind of surprised they were able to get. That's good for the Cowboys. You know, you're going to bank on him being a key pass rusher for you, kind of your number 2 pass rusher on the outside, and open some combination of Marshawn Nealand and or Peyton Turner help you out with some run-stopping stuff. Turner's production has not been very good. Former first-round pick. He'll have to earn a roster spot probably. He's not getting paid enough really beyond that. But I think in general, from a body perspective, the Cowboys have enough. They have enough bodies. But there are some question marks with all those players in some capacity, even long-term. They like drafting defensive ends. They like doing it. They've done it with Sam Williams, done it with Marshall. They love round 2 edges. So I would not rule out an early round pick at edge. I've seen it happen too many times to bury my head in the sand and think it's not possible. I would not rule that out, even though I think running back, receiver, and corner, which we'll get to, are bigger needs. Now, who do you want the Cowboys to draft in round 1? No wrong answer. It's your opinion. Keep it realistic for me, though. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Linebackers. Look, Overshown's not going to be healthy for week 1, but he's still, I think, a long-term piece. If, knock on wood, he stays healthy. They have Maurice Leafau, Damone Clark for now, and they added 2 players. Jack Sanborn is, a lot of us, I'm happy to say it, us nerds like him. I think there's untapped potential there for Jack Sanborn. He's on a super cheap deal, though. Kenneth Murray is not on a super cheap deal. And there will be some splash plays he makes, especially when moving downhill. The side-to-side stuff, dropping back, it's not nearly as good. I have some concerns there. But he's probably in line to be your middle linebacker who can also blitz for you, too. And hopefully, Overshown gets back soon. And in that case, some combination of Sanborn, Overshown, Leafau, Murray, it's probably good enough at linebacker. But a day 3 pick, to maybe replace Damone Clark, help on special teams, maybe be a long-term contributor for you, that, I think, is also very much in the cards for the Cowboys. Over to corner. Diggs, Butler probably won't be ready in round 1, or in week 1, excuse me. So that leaves DeRon Bland as 1 starter. And big question marks. Is it Kaiir Elam on the outside to start? A change of scenery hopefully helps, but he was a massive disappointment in Buffalo. Never lived up to expectations. Barely got on the field the way people wanted, but I think there is some untapped talent there. And then it's probably Israel Mukuamu at nickel, because I think the Cowboys didn't plan on losing Jordan Lewis. I think they were surprised at the size of the contract he ended up getting. So as a result, corner's a big need here. Trayvon Diggs, I don't know if he's here this time next year. We'll see how the rehab goes, everything else plays out, but I'm not so certain. And now nickel corner is a big question mark for Dallas. Short-term and long-term. So if you can find someone on day 1 or day 2, I think you'd have to strongly consider taking a corner. So will the Cowboys spend one of their first 3 picks on that spot? Why for yes and for no? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. The Cowboys pretty much running it back once again at safety. Willie Cooker's back, Donovan Wilson, Wanye Thomas, Marquise Bell. I'm not surprised. You guys know that I love adding safeties. Cowboys haven't always done that. I think they will add help here. Probably not big name help. This is probably like they sign an undrafted free agent or 2. Like, they have to be able to get through the camp and preseason, which you can't do because you're not going to play Wilson or Hooker in the preseason. Do you want to give 100% of your snaps to Wanya Thomas and Marquise Bell and risk injury? No. So I would bet safety help comes, but it's low investment safety help. And I guess kickers and punters are people too. Brandon Aubrey's back. Anger's back. Trent Siga's back. Outside of Bones Fossil, the Cowboys have pretty much chosen to run it back for one more year. So grade the Cowboys roster for me. A, B, C, D, or F. This is the pinned poll on today's show as well. A, B, C, D, or F. How do you feel about that Cowboys roster as we sit right now? Let me know by voting. A, B, C, D, or F. 5% say A, 4% say B, and 54% say C. Marcus, how about for the hell of it, duck race for $5? We will do that soon. How about that? I promise. Not today. Kind of didn't have time for it, but soon. Why not? We can make it work. That sounds fun. If we get enough. That sounds fun. Ecuador man, Banks and Booker dunk on Hoff or Bass. Why not at 12? So, for me, I actually don't like Kelvin Banks that much at 12. I as a guard, I should say, as a guard. I think some of his issues, I think that, getting defenders into his chest at times and not having, I think, a great power as a run blocker in particular, I think that those get amplified if he moves inside to guard. I kind of want to keep him at tackle. I think that the run blocking lack of power worries me more at guard than as a tackle. And I like Booker, but I've got both. I got him as a early second round grade. I'd written this down in my notes. I think it's going to be spot on because I haven't updated it since post-combine. I see some Osiris Torrence in his game. And Dallas didn't take Osiris Torrence all those years ago. I don't think the quickness and the athletic ability are particularly strong, just like it was for Osiris Torrence. So I think you're right. Those guys are better than Hoffman and Bass. But I also think that whatever guy I take at receiver and running back and corner also dunk on those players. So for me, if the Cowboys are super high on Booker and Banks, that's the best player on their board, cool. That's fine. But I also think I can survive more with Hoffman, Bass, and Jones than trotting out Tolbert and Brooks and Mingo and Sanders and Javonte again and Kalen Carson at corner, So for me, it's balancing the value and the players on the board. Nick, I like West in the 5th round, so I assume that's C.J. West, the Indiana defensive tackle. But I can get Cam Horsley from Boston College in the 6th, 7th to double dip. And thoughts on Nick Martin, the linebacker. Have not gotten to Nick Martin yet. I know that's Oklahoma State's. I think he's going to be a day 3 guy from more live watching than actual study stuff. I would be mad at a double dip along the defensive line. I've got 7 5th and 6th round picks. You can pretty much give me everything. Any scenario, be yeah, fine. It's a 5th and a 6th and a 7th rounder. I'm not going to be mad at it. King R. If we take Michael Williams, which we do, I'm going to rage. I don't want to take Mike Williams at 12. Trade down, the world's your oyster type of deal. But I don't have him that highly graded in the end. I got Booker in front of him. I got Banks in front of him. I got multiple receivers. I got Hampton in front of him. I don't want to take Mike Williams at 12 because there are things you like. Let me just go through my scouting report here. There are things that you like. I think he is a very good height, weight, speed combination athlete. I think he is a really great run stopper. He plays powerful. He played at Adamson, Georgia, did a lot of 3 down front stuff, which I don't think is actually his best fit. The ankle injury also helps explain his lack of production. 4.5 sacks, 5 sacks. It's not terrible production, but it's not 12th overall pick production. He didn't test as freaky as Shamar Stewart. I'd rather take Stewart because if I'm banking on upside, give me the better athlete there. He was also kind of always a hurt guy. Injuries, rotation stuff. Was never a full-time player. I get the intrigue. The physical skill set. I am just concerned I'm getting a great run stopper who is limited against the pass, and I spent my 12th overall pick on Adrian Claiborne and not Trayvon Walker. That's my concern. He'll be a top 32 player, I think, for me, but I don't want to take him at 12. That's not my preferred target there. Now, we will have more Cowboys news and updates for you. Also, feel like, why'd you take Marshall if you're just going to take, Michael Williams next year? Like, that's like the same you're aiming for there. Anyway, we'll have more videos for you every single day. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/CowboysTV for more free updates.